So Forward Operating Base Rahim was the largest base in the area. It was where most of the logistics took part. It's where the helicopters used to come in with a lot of the supply missions, where a lot of the vehicles used to come in. You'd have the ISO containers, the shipping containers, and it's where a lot of the troops were based before being pushed out to the smaller patrol bases. You had the fire support group with the much larger weapons. They were based there, and then they would head out from that base to give fire support to the lads on the ground, as well as doing operations on their own and keeping roads open and things like that. The base overlooked the green zone, which is why it was situated there. It's so we could have bigger weapon systems up there, giving support to the lads on the ground when they were pushing out into the green zone and picking fights with the Taliban. We had guided rocket systems like the Javelin there, which would be in support. And there you see a group of lads going out on patrol from the base. We also had these big balloons, permanent ground surveillance assets, which could see for miles and miles and miles and see that nothing was sneaking up on us while we were on patrol. We also had the Afghan National Army, which stayed at us from time to time, as well as a firing range outside the back of the base where we could go and do weapons training, make sure our weapons were working properly, practice our marksmanship, and pretty much just get all our weapon systems working in good order. It also gave us an opportunity to use other weapon systems, which we didn't get to use very often, such as the 66mm LASM rockets, as you'll see being fired here. That one there is being fired by Loco. And that's Lockie there. So we got to use out there those out the back, get really proficient at them. This is also a Claymore mine going off, and that's what happens if you stand in front of a Claymore mine. Really not recommended at all. It was also a much bigger base where the lads got a little bit of downtime, could relax a little bit, fool around before going out onto more serious operations out on the ground.
Well, today's the 1st of May, and I think I'm going to make this the first of my video diary entries instead of writing a diary, because at the moment we're just not finding time to write it down. There's quite a lot happening. I'm in Sangha 3 at the moment. I've just been put up on Stag, and I'll just show you what things look like from PB Rahim. So if you look out the back there, looking over Rahim, you can see the mountains, and you can see the green zone on that side, which is quite spectacular at sunrise, in fact. If we move over this side though, that's the helicopter landing strip. It's just desert, as you can see. There's a guy on a motorbike going. But so one side green zone, other side desert, and that's Forward Operating Base Rahim in the middle. Yeah, I've been in Afghanistan about a month now, although a lot of that sort of first 10 days or so was RSOI, which is training in Bastion, which is pretty uneventful. Happy to be out on the ground now doing the job. Just a few things that have happened since we've got here. On my last tour, nothing happened for the first few weeks. It was really quiet during the poppy harvest. But things have been quite busy here right from the get-go. And the main offensive is only starting for the Taliban in about 3-4 days' time. And that'll take about 2 weeks to ramp up. So it'll be interesting to see just how much more kinetic things get. Things that have happened: 6th Platoon were on a patrol and they came across a command pull IED, which was hanging in a tree. And they're walking down the road, and they noticed the tree was moving, and there was somebody 30 meters up the hill behind a rock yanking on the cable to set off the IED, which was making the tree move. The Afghan National Army guy that was with him sprinted up the hill, tried to shoot him, but his weapon jammed. Just wait, do I need to open the gate? No, there's a digger there. His weapon jammed, so didn't manage to get him, but the patrol was about literally 10 meters away from the IED when it fell out the tree and exploded. Luckily no one was injured, which I'm amazed at, because somebody should have got some frag even at that distance. Then, even more amazingly, there was a night ambush by the Taliban and a proper night ambush. Obviously the guy's been trained in Pakistan or Chechnya or something like that, because they had proper cut-off groups. They used flares to light them up at night. The patrol was going down the road. Suddenly they were lit up by these magnesium flares. Taliban opened fire, absolutely smashed them. Our guys did the anti-ambush drills, which is turn, face the enemy, hammer them as hard as possible while peeling out. Sergeant Langridge had a hell of a lucky escape. A bullet hit his night vision goggles off his face, and he managed to get some of the bullet splash in his cheek. He's since had to go back to England because the firing was so close to him that he has lost hearing in both of his ears. I think it's probably temporary, but also some bullet fragments in his face. So no casualties there either, but an absolute bloody miracle, because that was a good ambush, and the last thing we expected, because we haven't seen the Taliban do this before. So we're obviously up against quite a smart bunch of operators in this area, and a hell of a lot more capable than where I was last time in Nadi Ali. Another thing that happened is the ANP, Afghan National Police commander, John Muhammad, he got fragged. Frag means fragmentations off an explosive device in his own car, and he was heading to Gereshk. And what he thinks happened was they recovered 2 IEDs about a month ago, and one got stolen. And he thinks one of his own men, one of the police, are a bad egg working for the Taliban, and actually placed it in the back seat of his car. And it was a remote detonated device, which was remote detonated on the road to Gereshk. He got a lot of frag in that, but he's okay. But it just shows you can't trust anyone in this place. We've been in 2 contacts. First contact was absolutely gleaming contact. Went into the green zone, talking to some locals. We got open fire on by PKM. I couldn't return fire. I was behind a compound at the time. But none, our frontman and Corporal Jonah returned fire. We then bounded up onto their firing position. We moved through 2 fields where we got contacted a second time. Hell of an accurate fire. You'll see the video I've got on headcam. You can actually hear the bullets whizzing past your head on the camera, so hell of a close. Return fire. I put 3 UGLs, which is an underslung grenade launcher, 40mm grenade, German ones, Heckler & Koch company, into their position.
Stop peeling in!
So when you see the camera pointing at the ground, it's because I'm reloading UGLs, which stands for underslung grenade launcher. Here you can see it from another angle.
Fucker! Cut that off! Stop peeling in!
Position. They bugged out. We bounded up on them again, and we really did have them on the run. And I think we could have nabbed them, but then ECM Blue, our electronic countermeasures, went down, so we couldn't carry on going without a risk from remote detonator devices. So we had to come back, unfortunately.
RPG! No, that's not an RPG. No, it's going the other way. Yeah. No. RPG moves a shitload faster than that.
That sounds a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Second contact, we went into Mohammedsai, patrolling past a compound. Front two or three men, the horn men and the cover man, were contacted. The rest of the call sign was behind the compound, which is very often what they do. They try and isolate the front two or last two people, hammer them, and the rest of the call sign can't fire back because there's a building in the way. Anyway, and that one too, the blue went down, obviously struggling with overheating. I think the fans on that one were broken. I've since changed the ECM. We've got a new one, so hopefully that won't happen again, and when we are in a good position to exploit the enemy and actually take him out, we'll be able to do so. I was then also on a 3-day horn course. Horn is pretty much just a metal detector, the way we find their IEDs. When we noticed two Pedro medical helicopters come over, the Queen's Company were doing an operation in the green zone, and as it turned out, one of the lads was killed there. This was about 4 or 5 days ago. A lucky round managed to find its way between the chinks in his body armor. Only literally 10 days on the ground, and we've had our first casualty. And we've had IEDs, we've had ambushes, and things like that. So I think it's going to be a hell of a long tour, very, very kinetic. And I doubt he'll be the last person to be injured or killed. One of our other call signs, Sergeant Benison, also got into a contact. Afghan local police guy was shot in the shoulder. Absolute mental case, these guys. The guy who was shot just ran forward, killed the guy who had a PKM, which is a big Russian general purpose machine gun. Came back, told our multiple to move forward and secure the PKM. Our commander decided the IED threat was too high and pulled back, so unfortunately we were not able to get that weapon system, which would have been very handy to get that off the ground, because that is their prestige weapon, and that's usually what they initiate contacts with. So yeah, for the first sort of 2 weeks or so, a little bit more than 2 weeks now, probably about 18, 19 days of this tour, when I expected absolutely nothing to be happening during the poppy harvest, it's actually been kicking off. Definitely a much better Taliban crew up here. They know what they're doing. They've got some good commanders up here, obviously trained in Pakistan or Chechnya. So it's going to be a very, very interesting tour. I'm going to continue making video diaries throughout the tour, and hopefully you'll be able to watch them afterwards and get some idea of what's going on here. And I'll obviously splice that with the head cam footage and my photography to give you a good idea of what it's like here. But so far, not too bad, but quite kinetic. Out.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed those videos. There are going to be lots more coming. If you would consider helping out the charity that I've posted for the lads who are injured in Afghanistan, that would be awesome. Alright, enjoy the videos.